What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. The podcast being the 3 C's with Ginge, and the 3 C's being coffee and content creation. I am here with my husband and co-host, Mr. Josh.
Hello, everybody.
And today we are going to be talking about lean startup versus bulky or heavy investment and what that means. It's been a huge topic of conversation lately while I've been streaming and just throughout the Discord. And so we thought maybe it could be something great to chat about with you guys.
Absolutely. This is one of those things that you'll find in any business and stuff like that. We actually have experiences with both. So we're going to kind of talk about both sides of the spectrum, pros and cons to each, and then our experiences and all that kind of stuff. But this is obviously geared more towards content creation, streaming, YouTube, all of that kind of stuff. So we'll just talk about our experiences with it. So.
And hey, if you're here and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, please do so. We need all the subscribers we can get because it validates how amazing our podcast is.
And everybody leaves the room.
But anyway, so this is kind of I wouldn't say touchy subject, but it can get a little...
I wouldn't say touchy. There's just very different perspectives on it.
And people have very differing opinions, and some people will say that your opinion is wrong in some instances. I've definitely had that a few times. But like Josh said, we're going to come at this just from our own perspectives, as we do with almost every episode that we do anyway. And
talk about our real world experience.
Yeah.
Just we're a couple episodes in, obviously, now to this podcast, but it's important to reiterate. I think every couple episodes, everything we talk about, we have real world experience with. It's not just firing from the hip or just making stuff up or reading theories that we've read online. This is all stuff that we have done in this business and such. So we're just talking about our experiences. We're not saying anything is right, wrong. There's better ways, worse ways. But, we're just talking directly from our experience.
Definitely. So when I first started streaming, I had a laptop and Josh's HyperX headset with a microphone. The laptop that I had was a Asus Republic of Gamers laptop. It was incredible. I did not purchase it for streaming. I had bought it, I think, a year prior or two, maybe 2 years, because that, we were living separately. I wanted to be able to play RuneScape with him, and so I wanted a computer that would allow me to do that. I didn't need that, but that's what I bought.
But you had other games too
exactly,
that you wanted to play,
like Skyrim and
right,
such.
Instead of just buying, we invested a little bit more money into a nice laptop that was going to last you a while.
Yeah.
So.
And so, was that the most quality streams? No. If you go back, you can still see some of my first clips, some of my first streams, and the quality was atrocious. But here's the thing. When you're first starting out, quality isn't something that you really should be focusing on. And that's my opinion, of course. But nobody's going to mind if you're using your laptop cam and, it's like 2 frames per hour, or if maybe your game isn't running as smoothly or it's not in 4K or something like that, because people are trying to get to know you. In that instance, they're trying, okay, this person's new. I've never seen them before. I'm going to hang out in this stream. I don't really care about the quality. I just want to get to know the streamer. And so for the first, I think, 6 months, I think is maybe a little bit more than that, I streamed from my laptop. People can attest to this, Momo, all of the, kind of OGs in my community. It was great, Did my Skyrim gameplay look incredible? No, it did not, because it just was laggy.
It was pretty bad.
My computer only lasted maybe 2 hours, and then after that it would overheat and turn off because it was a laptop. But what I'm trying to say is, right now I'm about to hit 4,000 followers on Twitch. We're about to hit 400 people in the Discord. I've been growing, and that was still happening in the beginning with not top tier quality of streaming.
Yeah, so that's our experience with obviously starting with a little more lean startup, especially because this started as a side hobby, side little project before we knew where we were going to take it. So we just naturally started with the lean startup kind of method. And obviously some of the pros of that is you're just not as invested with it.
Yep. So if it goes belly up, you're not...
Right. Yeah. And then, we'll get more into it, but then just to quickly cover something more like a heavy investment startup, if you are thinking about doing some sort of content creation and then all of a sudden you go out and purchase all of this equipment, mics and monitors and computers and stuff like that, some of it may be justified, some of it may not. We started specifically with what we had and just made it work. And more than likely, you can probably do the same thing too. Or maybe there's some sort of like in between where, like, okay, so you're trying to do some audio type stuff. Maybe you need to upgrade your mic a little bit. A headset's not always the best way to go if you're trying to record some audio. So there's always some middle ground as well. You should always prioritize where you're going to invest money and stuff like that. But I promise you, with whatever you have, you can start with that and then adjust and grow from there.
Definitely.
So we are much more of the mindset of a lean startup because again, that's what we have experience with, and that worked really well for us. And another thing I've noticed about the heavy investment stuff too, you end up putting so much pressure on yourself and on whatever it is that you're working on because you feel so heavily invested monetarily that now this has become a big burden. It turns into almost, this has to work, right? Because you put so much time and energy and effort into it, and money, and like that's what makes it such a big, almost like a burden. Whereas, if you just put time and energy into it because it's a passion of yours, that's great. And that's how it started. This was all a passion for Scared to Ginge.
Yep.
And then we grew it from there. We let it grow naturally or organic, and then revenue was just dumped back into the business to help us upgrade equipment, upgrade streaming quality, update recording quality, and all that kind of stuff. And even at this point now, where things are sitting pretty good, we're still taking revenue and putting it back into the business.
And I think that realistically with any business, I've owned my own business before and such like that. It's hard when you start to have money come in to realize that that money should be going back into the business. That's not saying 100% of it should, but when you're beginning a business, and yes, this has been almost 2 years now, you don't have the ability yet to take that money and go treat yourself to nice things and all that kind of stuff. You can, but what's better is to take that money and invest it back into whatever it is that you're doing. So if you're a streamer, that is, getting better quality stuff. That's subscribing to other people. That's going around and dropping bits into other people's streams, or, maybe getting that chair, which, yes, is something nice for you, but it's also good for you because now you can be comfortable.
Right. Absolutely. Real quick, so one really good books on the topic that I just want to plug here, and there's no way sponsored or anything like that. It's just it's a book that I have read several times. It's called The Lean Startup by Eric Rise. I think I'm saying that right. Just Google it. You can get an audiobook, paperback, and stuff like that.
I'll link it below.
Yeah, yep. We can drop a link in below for it. Again, that's no sort of affiliation. I'm just saying it's a great book. It talks about a lot of bootstrapping and lean startup practices and stuff like that. Especially if one of your hiccups in getting into content creation is you're worried about having a perfect plan and perfect equipment and stuff like that. Like we've always said, like we've said at every episode, basically just start. That's what you need to do, is just start, make it work, and adjust as you go. That's what you need to do.
It's easier to start than it is 6 months down the road to say, damn it, I wish I would have started 6 months ago. It's what's the worst that's going to happen?
Right. You can't wait for conditions to be perfect, because conditions will never be perfect no matter how much you try to set them straight. That's why we're recording this at basically the new year of 2020. So that's why people's New Year's resolutions fall off, because they miss one day, or they're trying to wait for everything to be perfect to make things happen. And I promise you that's very unreal and not a real situation. Exactly. It's never going to happen. But yeah, so one of the biggest pros I find too about the lean startup is you have so much more room to adjust as you need going along. You're not so heavily invested in just one path. So perfect example, let's say you content creation, your big focus was YouTube. You're just making your stuff on focus on YouTube and recording and all that kind of stuff. But maybe it's not working out for you. Maybe you're not getting the traction you want, and then you try streaming, and let's say that pops off. You're able to adjust and just go that route a little bit more. Well, you started off lean, and it's no big deal as you adjust. Whereas if you start with a much more heavier startup, whether it's building some advertisements or building pre-sale stuff, and then equipment and stuff like that, it would be hard to adjust into a different sort of content creation if you were so heavily invested in just one route.
Yeah.
But that's also why we like to say when it comes to content creation, you should be everywhere as much as you can, so that way you can find out what's working well for you and what isn't. So, but yeah, the leaner startup just gives you much more room in the beginning to adjust and figure out what is working for you, what isn't working for you.
Yep.
Then there's the other side of things. You may think that content creation is something you want to do, but then you get into it and realize it's just not for you. So now you have all this invested time, money, energy, and it's just not something that's for you.
Right.
And that's, I would say it's a worst case scenario, but that kind of sucks. I don't know if I've done it with hobbies and stuff like that before, where I've dabbled in it a little bit. I'm like, oh, this is going to be so cool. And then, I go out and I put some more money into it, and then I'm just over it. Yep. So, again, also something to think about.
Yeah. And, it really is subjective in what you think is going to work and what you think is going to be the best. And, and that's why we always say these are just our opinions. It's from our, kind of views on things. But at the end of the day, I'm the type of person that cares about everybody. I don't want people to go beyond their means to try to make something work that isn't working for them, because that too is when it becomes a burden. And so simply investing more money into something that is failing or that isn't working isn't going to make it work. So if that's a point that you're at right now, because it happens a lot, take a step back, kind of think about the things that maybe you should work on instead of going out and getting a new mic because, well, maybe if my mic quality is better. I use a Blue Yeti. This thing is a beast. I get told so often, that Blue Yetis are crap, but yet I can't tell you how many times I get complimented on how great the audio quality is.
It's funny because people will compliment the audio quality, and then we tell them what mic it is, then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, ew, it's so bad." Like,
yeah, and you don't need a $300 or $400 microphone when you're just starting out. Those kind of microphones, they're good for podcasts. They're good if you're doing an actual voiceover recording
or musician.
When
you're in
like
the high tier, high level stuff where however you break it down, whatever that stuff is important.
Exactly.
But if you're just streaming or just recording your voice a little bit, again, a very cheap USB mic mouse would work. A headset will work if you were first starting off.
Exactly. Is the quality going to be the best? No. But again, when you're first starting out, people aren't like, oh, I'm only here because the quality. No, they're here to get to know you and your gameplay, and that's it. Or whatever it is. If you're a crocheter, if you sing on stream, whatever it is, they're there to get to know you, not your quality.
And the nice part about when you start building your audience and building your loyal fans, like we like to talk about, is when you're ready to start upgrading stuff like that, you can talk to your fans and your community and stuff like that. And a lot of times they're going to help you out getting some of that equipment because they believe in you and they trust you and stuff like that. Recently, there was if you want to talk about it.
No, you go ahead.
So
you're the one that orchestrated it almost.
Not really. That was part of it, but not as much. Scared Ginge had a small stream deck, and the stream deck is a very cool piece of equipment.
Highly recommend. Yeah. Even if you just get the small one, it's incredible.
And it was funny because when I first found out what it was, I was like, I wasn't about it. I was like, this seems kind of silly.
Yeah.
But then see the amount of uses there are for it. But her community surprised her with a kind of Christmas present / a upgrade and got her the much bigger stream deck.
The medium one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even asked or anything like that, but they just wanted to help her out so she can do just more features. Yeah. And now we have exploding faces in your streams.
It's not even being used for its full potential. It's more of memeing everything, but it's great.
It's the meme deck is what it is. But again, so that's why you build fans and you stay honest and stuff like that. Because a lot of times the reason they're your fans is because they want to be part of your success. It's not just that they enjoy watching it. They want to help to see you succeed, and they want to be a part of that. So if it's upgrading equipment and stuff like that, you just talk to your community. And I'm not saying use your community to get free stuff. No. Just talk to them about your goals and things that you need to do. And a lot of times you're more than likely you're going to have, if you're not the best at tech, you're going to have some sort of tech guy in your community that you can talk to give you recommendations of things.
We love you, Momo.
Seriously. But yeah, so we've talked a lot about the positive sides of lean startup, but some of the heavier, some of the positive sides of heavier investments and stuff like that. And again, also, mind you, lean versus heavy is also a matter of perspective too. It all depends on your financial situation. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that, this money is this, this amount of money is lean and this amount of money is heavy. It's really whatever it is you want for you, So first and foremost, if you invested a bunch of money into a nice computer and you realize content creation isn't for you, you still have a nice computer at the end of the day.
Exactly.
So think about that kind of stuff when you are, whatever it is you were trying to do, but think about that stuff when you go to invest in different things. You invest in a really nice mic, again, and don't feel like doing content creation. Well, if you like to play shooters or something like that, and you talk with your buddies on stream, or over mic and stuff like that, you now have a nice mic. So just think about dual purpose stuff. Dual purpose stuff, you can always end up justifying spending stuff within your means.
Yeah.
Within your, caveat to that is always just try to stay within your means and budget things out and stuff like that, of course.
Going out and getting the, Stream Deck XL when you're first starting out, which is bigger than the one that I have, might not be the best move. They have a smaller version that works great. There are always, same thing with the Yeti. There is a snowball version of it. It's small, it's inexpensive, and it works great. There's always a lesser, I don't want to say cheaper, but less expensive version of something that you want. And then as you build, again, like, Josh said, your community can help you. You can do it yourself. It's just, lean startup is just easier on everyone.
There's always a starter version of something is a good way to put it. And then there's always upgrades.
Yep.
And that's one thing where even let's say you have the capital for a heavy investment startup, I personally would recommend taking that money and putting it off to the side and call that business money, cash flow to keep the business going when you're first starting. And then you can decide where you do need to upgrade. And then you're not even worried about, hustling for money, putting out that content to try to create something because you already have the cash flow on the back end.
Yep.
And you realize people are like, hey, I really like your content, but it's really hard to hear you. Your audio is just, it's not very good. If that's feedback you're getting already, you're like, hey, okay, cool. I've already have some business money aside. Let me go and upgrade my audio per se.
Yep.
So you can still do the best of both worlds, or you can still do a heavy investment startup while being lean in the sense of, keeping money in the back end and stuff.
Yep. So, with that being said, again, we just wanted to bring something kind of to talk about this because, again, it's been something that's been talked about a lot lately. And I think that might have to do with it being the new year. People are trying new things. People are thinking about new things and, more power to you. Again, if you want to stream, if you want to create content, do it. But there are smarter ways to go about things. And at the end of the day, I want everybody to succeed, And if that means that you simply just start with what you have, do it. That's what I did. It worked pretty good for me. And if that means that you can afford to go out and spend a little bit more money, maybe you do want to get a top line. Maybe you stream something like Skyrim or something and you need that super beast of a computer. If you can afford it.
To run the mods.
All of them, then do that. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's more so just being aware and understanding what you can and cannot afford and what is actually going to be worth it at this time.
Yeah, so. And that's the best way to put it. And then there's always areas that I would always say to maybe invest a little bit more in and stuff like, if you're trying to do content creation, a reliable internet source is kind of important. We moved cities about a year and a half ago, and we had Fios internet before, which is fiber optic internet, and it was the most amazing internet I've ever had in my life, and we can't get it where we're at now, and it makes me really sad. But so something like that. We paid, and I actually paid pretty similar price. Thank you, military, for discounts. But, so something like that was a priority for the business because that created the liability for the business.
Exactly.
That was some of the groundwork kind of deal. So if you have okay internet, but you could upgrade your internet to a different service or to a higher numbers, and that'd be beneficial for you. Something like that. That does make sense to obviously invest a little bit more into money.
Yep.
Or even stuff like education. So if you want to get to YouTube and you're not very good with editing softwares, that's, before you go buy, whatever editing software, it's $400 or $500, you go to Udemy or something like that, or even just YouTube for free, because you don't always need to spend money to learn stuff. And then you just educate yourself on something first. So stuff like that, investing in self first, very smart. And then whatever groundwork to help support the business, like something like making sure you have electricity for the house, and you have a reliable internet, things like that. You can always prioritize just about anything. You just need to be smart with it. So, but that's my rant.
It's a good rant.
And again, if you can get fiber optic internet, go get it. It's so good.
Don't do the ASMR. They're going to leave us. Bye, guys. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with us today. Let us know what you think about, lean startup versus like a bulkier investment or something of the sort. What your experience have been, what you learned from starting and such. And again, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, please do it. And give us a thumbs up if you like this podcast, because that helps us know that we're on the right track and we can keep creating content. So,
and let me just jump in again real quick. And if you are starting out, if someone need help with budgeting or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to me. That is something I'm fairly decent at. Or if you just need a different perspective and stuff like that, we can talk about equipment, we can talk about where you're at and stuff like that. Obviously, everything remain confidential. I don't share any information.
He's not an accountant, so just remember that.
Ouch,
so
harsh.
No.
No, I'm pretty decent with this kind of stuff. That is my role in this business.
Exactly.
So, just feel free to reach out to me, if you need anything. So
I need a lot of things.
Ain't that the truth?
Anyway, guys, thanks for hanging out with us today, and we will see you again soon. Bye.